My name's Danny Burke and my brain is buzzing for this video. We've got a very brainy video for you guys today. This is Most Amazing Top 10, and today we're going to be talking about the top 10 most important discoveries ever. That's right folks, some of you guys might think that discovering this YouTube channel was the greatest discovery in human history, but apparently not. Apparently. We're going to be talking about some of the greatest discoveries that humans have ever made, and we're going to jump right into this like we always do with our number 10. We're going to be talking about anesthesia. Without anesthesia to stop the pain of surgery or put patients to sleep altogether, every minor operation we take for granted today will be one of the most painful things imaginable. It was discovered in 1801 by English scientist Humphrey Davy, who was experimenting with different mixes of gases when he combined nitrogen and oxygen to make nitrous oxide. When he inhaled this, he experienced euphoria, started laughing, then crying, and then passed out. Sounds like an average Friday night for me. When he kept experimenting with it, he also found that it made him completely numb to pain, so he recommended this to dentists and doctors, and the rest of the world was like, this is great, we like this, good stuff. At number 9, we've got electricity. Now this one revolutionized the world and brought you many of the home comforts that you guys take for granted. It almost literally brought us from the dark into the light. Now electricity has obviously existed as a fundamental property of the universe since the dawn of time, but it's hard to say when humans discovered it because there's a lot of examples of them knowing what it was throughout history, but it's fair to say we really started to understand it in the way we do today sometime in the 17th century. It was then that scientists invented an early electrostatic generator, knew the difference between positive and negative currents, and the properties of electrical conductors and insulators. And then came Benjamin Franklin with his kite and lightning, and then came the light bulb, and then the rest is history. It changed the world, and it charges my phone, that's why it's on our list. Now at number 8, we've got germ theory. Before the theory of germs was proposed, nobody seemed to have a clear understanding of how diseases were spread or food became spoilt and rotten. Then in 1856, Louis Pasteur came along and said that microscopic organisms that we now call germs are floating everywhere around us in the air, undetectable to the human eye. He proved that bacteria didn't just spawn randomly and instead existed all around us, waiting to multiply and feed on decaying matter. Louis Pasteur also showed that sterilizing objects could stop bacteria from growing on them, which is a good thing for stopping disease. He also invented a technique for removing bacteria from liquid foods such as milk, so next time you have pasteurized milk, it's named after him. Coming in at number 7, we've got the Rosetta Stone. Now the ability to read and write ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics had been lost some 1500 years ago. Historians had to largely guess at what hieroglyphics meant until the discovery of the Rosetta Stone in 1799 by French soldiers in Egypt. Made of black granite, the Rosetta Stone contained a decree on behalf of the Egyptian king Ptolemy V over 2,000 years ago. The top was the confusing hieroglyphics, but the bottom was an almost identical text written in Greek. And guess what? People did know how to read Greek, so they were able to translate every single last piece of ancient Egyptian writing just because of one stone. Pretty cool stuff. At number 6 now, we've got fingerprints. Now humans have known that their fingerprints were different from one another for hundreds of years, but it wasn't until William Herschel, a British administrator in India, started using them alongside signatures in contracts that people began to implement fingerprinting as a form of ID. Then an Argentine police official called Juan Busatich started using them to identify criminals, and this discovery revolutionized the justice system. Within a few years, people weren't just identifying criminals by vague descriptions of their faces. Fingerprinting meant it was a lot easier to tie a criminal to a crime. Good stuff. At number 5, we're going to be talking about the discovery that the Earth goes round the Sun, otherwise known as the Heliocentric Theory. For thousands of years, people thought that the Earth was the center of the solar system until this guy, Copernicus, came along in the first half of the 16th century and proved through a meticulous scientific method that the observation of the planet's movements only made sense if the Sun was the center of the solar system and not the Earth. Nowadays, we take it for granted that the Earth isn't the center of the solar system, but back then, people didn't really like it, especially the Catholic Church. It went against pretty much everything that people thought at the time, so it was a very big discovery. Coming in number 4 now, we've got evolution, or more specifically, the discovery of the Taung Child. This was a nickname given to the remains of a fossilized primate found in 1924. It was discovered at a quarry site in South Africa and was eventually identified as belonging to a member of a species that was in a transition state date between ancient apes and modern day humans. It was dated at being an amazing 2.8 million years old and was a key piece of evidence in proving Darwin right in his theory that humans originated from Africa. And now at number 3 we've got vaccination. Vaccination saving lives is a well-known fact these days. For example, the measles vaccination is estimated to have saved 17.1 million lives since the year 2000. It cannot be understated how many diseases vaccinations have helped prevent. Edward Jenner was an English surgeon who in 1874 noticed that milkmaids often got the mild disease cowpox but never the deadly disease of smallpox. He figured this means that they were in the same family of diseases and catching cowpox made you resistant to smallpox. He injected kids with a form of cowpox and then injected them with a form of smallpox afterwards, and amazingly, for the first time in history, none of them died. This paved the way for modern day vaccinations and it proved his theory correct, but it was a pretty crazy way of doing it. At number 2 we've got DNA. In 1953, biochemists Francis Crick and James Watson were the people who created the first accurate model of the molecular structure deoxyribonucleic acid, otherwise known as DNA. This was a huge breakthrough in science, as DNA is the master code to how living organisms are built, operate and reproduce. Discovering the properties and shape of our own DNA on the molecular level allowed scientists to develop cures for many deadly diseases. Eventually this allowed scientists to map out the entire human genome, which is basically the instruction guide on how to build me or you or literally any other human. Very cool stuff. And finally at number 1 we have got penicillin. Now this one has saved an immeasurable amount of lives since it was first discovered in 1928 by 47-year-old Alexander Fleming. He grew bacteria in small glass plates to study deadly diseases but struggled to stop mold from getting in there and contaminating it. When he returned to his lab one day from a trip, he found that one of his dishes of bacteria had failed to grow. A type of mold called Penicillium notatum had found its way into the dish and had stopped the growth of bacteria there. This might have been the most important mold ever found because it was eventually developed into the drug penicillin, which has saved millions and millions of lives and is the thing that any doctor will give you if you get a nasty infection. Well guys, there you have it. There were some of the most important discoveries ever made. Which one do you guys think was the most important, and do you know any other important discoveries? Whatever your thoughts are, let's hear them down below. But if discovering this channel is still the most important discovery you've ever made, then make sure you hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with all the content we have on this channel. Also like and share it if you did like it. In the meantime, thanks for watching Most Amazing Top 10 guys. My name is Danny Burke and I'll see you guys soon.